Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Darwin Porter calling in from Staten Island, New York. Good morning, Darwin.
Good morning to you, Anita. And we're living in such a diverse land with so much protest that I want to bring a certain brightness to the day.
Please do. Please do.
And as you know, this is Black History Month, and the Oscars have been announced, and they will be awarded later this month. And it's a whole different press now, but I want to put some of these things in perspective. As the world knows, in the last 2 years, African Americans were not nominated for top positions, and that caused a great scandal and protest. But the good news, which really was overlooked, is that during that time, African American directors, actors were turning out at least a dozen and arguably 15 award-winning movies. They just weren't released in time, and now they're out. And I'll just run through I think everyone knows, but I'll just run through the list real quickly. For Best Picture, which is the highest award of all, Fences, Moonlight, and Hidden Figures, there are three, let's just call them, Black or African American pictures in the running, and that's fantastic. The 2015 wasn't really that bad in the sense that Selma, about the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King, was actually nominated for Best Picture of the Year, which is the highest award. It didn't win, but at least it wasn't as bleak as some people put. And Best Actor, Denzel Washington, up for Fences. And, Denzel has won 2 Oscars in the past. He originally got a 1989 Best Supporting for Glory, and then 2002 was a really historic year. He won for Training Day, and then Halle Berry also won that year for Monsters Ball. Never before in the Academy had a black actress and a black actor been nominated and won at the same time.
I really like Denzel very much. I think he's a sterling. I don't see him in the news with doing a lot of bad things. He just seems like a very fine person as well as a great actor.
Yeah, he really seems to be. And, of course, he thanked, at the Academy the night he won, he thanked Sidney Poitier for paving the way because in 1964, Sidney became the first black actor to win a Best Actor Oscar. Now, but the original one, and I'm sure you remember this, we were too young, of course, but in 1940, Hattie McDaniel won for playing Mammy in Gone with the Wind, and so she was the original breakthrough in Oscar country. And and not only that now, the Best Supporting Actor, Mahershala Ali, won for Moonlight, which is a story set of a young black gay boy growing up in the projects of South Florida. And but here is the cat for Best Supporting Actress. Viola Davis is up for Fences, Naomi Harris for Moonlight, and Octavia Spencer for Hidden Figures. Now, some people are saying this is a great breakthrough, but actually it's not. In 1986, 3 black actresses were nominated for The Color Purple. So this is not even a historical thing. And
wasn't Oprah in A Color Purple? Was she in that?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm saying is the papers are reporting that this is a first, but it's not. Of course, if you are nominated 3 for the same movie, you break up the vote. No one wins, because you're all competing in the same picture, and that's happened before. And almost always the actors lose who compete against each other in the same movie. Now, not only that, but Best Director this year, Barry Jenkins, a black director for Moonlight. Now, here's what a lot of people don't know. 4 of the 5 documentaries this year were directed by African Americans. 4 out of 5. And so it's an amazing but what I'm trying to say, during that sort of blackout, and I don't mean a pun on that, in 2015 and 2016, all these films were being produced. They just didn't make it under the grade in time, and now they'll be getting their honors. However, this is America, and there will always be protests. Now, believe it or not, the protests are now coming from the Latino community. And now that is certainly will change in the years ahead, because surveys have shown that Latinos are the largest growing population in America, and far more than African Americans and typical white people. So I think, I won't be around to see all this, but I think, say, 20 years from now, we may have Latinos being nominated for most of the awards, because that will happen eventually as the population changes.
So wait, I have a question about this. So if someone comes up, whether it's a black person, or it's an African American, or it's a Latino, or it's someone who's Caucasian, if it's a great movie, they're going to be selected, aren't they? Do you really think that they're not selected based on their heritage or their color?
Well, I think they will often. I really want to talk about that, because I've thought a lot about it and I've read a lot about it. And the people, group after group, reveal that they want to see themselves reflected on the screen, to see their own lives. And I want to speak personally about the 3 films that appealed to me. And, like, for example, Asian people are saying we're not represented up there on the screen. But Hollywood has been very smart. What they're doing is they'll take a famous film shown in America, and before they show it in China, they will insert subplots with Chinese actors. So, in other words, they're hoping to lure people in by using Chinese actors. And, in fact, the biggest grossing movie star in the world, meaning in terms of box office, and the highest paid movie star in the world today, in terms of population, is Fan Bingbing. Fan Bingbing. Now, you may never have heard of her.
No.
But she's the biggest star in the world.
Really?
In terms of money and box office gross, because she's just devoted. I mean, she would be equivalent in America to someone as famous as Elvis Presley. So Fan Bingbing is now. But now here's another thing that is interesting. The biggest grossing movie star in America, male, is Dwayne Johnson, whose nickname is The Rock. He was a pro wrestler, and he made more millions than any other actor in Hollywood this past year, beating out Robert Downey Jr. Now, he's known mainly for his roles in the Fast and Furious franchise and for the movie San Andreas. So he became, but here again, even though he's not the first African-American actor who became the biggest grosser in the world, because in 2008, Will Smith was the biggest grossing male movie star in the world. And in 2021, he made $100 million for Men in Black 3. And that's a lot of money. I know back in '63, Elizabeth Taylor made world headlines when she got $1 million for Cleopatra. And now an actor can pull in $100 million for appearing in a film. It's just truly amazing.
So what you're saying is, it isn't so much the color of their skin or maybe their heritage, but it's maybe the position that they're in. A very good movie, and if it's really good, they're going to get their own people in as well as the general population. So I'm trying to picture Dwayne Johnson. I'm sure I've seen him. Of course, I've not seen Fan Bingbing, but it's really...
You probably have.
I have?
She has appeared in 2 or 3 minor scenes in American movies.
She's Chinese or Japanese? Chinese?
No. And she's appeared in some American movies playing a Chinese person. And in fact, I saw 2 or 3 movies with her in it. I didn't even realize it was Fan Bingbing until I began to read who she really was.
But are these really good actors? I mean, are they? Well, just like Dwayne Johnson, I don't remember. You said that he is in what movie is he?
They're films that I don't. Again, people have. He's very, very popular with African American people. In fact, at the survey last year, they went to in South Chicago. They went to black theaters that show Dwayne Johnson movies and many other movies, and they interviewed the people coming out of the theater, and many of them said, "Oh, we didn't see any those white movies this year." We
Interesting.
went to, and it was interesting. They called them. They were unfamiliar with the movies being nominated for the Academy Award. So that proves that now true artists. And I hope to view films like an artist of the world. I try to look at performances by the performance, not by color of skin or anything like that. But people do want to see themselves reflected on the screen, and that's why the groups that are not often reflected on the screen feel they are not represented. Mainly, we mention Latinos, gay people, certainly Asian people, which are in fact, China is now it's on the way to becoming the biggest movie grossing place in the world. 21 movie houses in China open every month. And if you go through American towns, I used to drive through the main streets, and now you see abandoned theaters. In fact, I live right near where 5 movie houses. They're still standing, but they're all boarded up now because people quit going to the movies here. And so there's a big cultural change going on in the world.
Now, that's interesting that we're talking about this because it's very surprising to me, and I shouldn't be surprised that people aren't going to the movies based on how great the movie is, maybe, but on the people who are similar to them and that they can relate to. I hadn't thought about that.
Yes, and again, we're not talking about artists who have to judge things more objectively, but obviously, if like one columnist here, in fact, it says right here before me, this African American Sean King, he says, I want to see and show my children nominees who look like us in films and see roles that will tell our story. That should always be the case, but it simply hasn't been the case for most years. This year it is. In other words, that's a father wanting to see. Obviously, he will see Moonlight. I don't know if you've had a chance.
No, I'm going to. I have a list now of movies that I would definitely like to get because I've heard so much about them.
There are a number of them. Now I have to reveal my own personal prejudices. I mean, the musical La La Land has received 14 Oscar nominations, and I know why. In fact, it reminds me of those wonderful old films of yesterday, like Singing in the Rain. That's actually, I mispronounced that. It's singing without the G on the end. Singing in the Rain, and fantastic. musical, and this one is a great tribute to people who have loved Hollywood and the dreams of yesterday. If my longtime friend of long ago, Debbie Reynolds, were still alive, I'd like to invite her to see La La Land, because we would vote for it. Because I lived in Hollywood. This was a film that I've known so many of those characters in La La Land, and their hopes and the dreams of stardom. In fact, I think my life's been surrounded by people like that. So that movie almost brought a tear to my life. It is also a movie about the love that might have been between a man and a woman, and you know, sometimes we've all had a love that might have been, and there've even been novels written about it, and it also touched on two people who come together, and for one reason or another they separate. So I would have to vote La La Land for Best Picture.
And who's the star? Who are the stars in it?
Emma Stone is brilliant, and Ryan Gosling. And now these are not normal stars that you would find in a musical, but they pull it off beautifully. 2 or 3 people turned it down, and now it's becoming the biggest grossing film around. So I bet it's like Frank Sinatra. I heard him once say, you know, someone came to me and presented a song called Love is a Many Splendored Thing, and he said, get that piece of crap out of here. And he said, boy, was I wrong.
Right. So La La Land, yes, I've heard so much about it. And
it's wonderful.
Yeah, so I will certainly go and see that.
It's a film that, you leave the theater feeling good. Now, if you want to see a brilliant performance, but you want to leave the theater feeling more miserable than you are, I would go see Manchester by the Sea. Casey Affleck, who is the brother, of
yes.
Ben Affleck, it's a brilliant performance, but it's a sad story. And the reason, talking about people going to see movies affecting their own life, it reminded me of my own life and things that have happened to me in the alienation of a family and a small town, and it reminded me of scenes when I was growing up, and I was deeply touched by that movie. And I think Casey, he's up against some very strong competition, but he really pulled off a very, very difficult role, and he's touched the hearts of many people. Now, he is dogged by some problems in his private life. He was the subject of a couple of threatened sexual harassment lawsuits that never quite made it to court, and a lot of people think that one should vote against him because he had that trouble. That brings up a problem. Do you judge an actor by his private life, or do you judge him by his performance? That's another issue.
That's one movie I don't think I'm going to see at this point. I'm going to see La La Land and some of the other ones.
It's depressing, but brilliantly done. Now, I'm speaking now just for my personal preferences of things that touch me, and I would vote for Natalie Portman in Jackie.
I featured her on the cover, last month in that movie.
I do. And it's not the typical Jackie movie. It because it portrays the events right after her life. How you get over and you deal with the loss of a spouse, and how you pick up the pieces and go on again. This is something that most of us will face in our life if we haven't already faced it.
So you're saying I should go and see that movie for sure?
I think it sort of gives one hope. And I think it was a brilliant performance. Now, I must say I didn't like what I adore Natalie, but I didn't like what she said. She said that she read 12 Jackie books, and I heard she read mine. I wrote, in fact, the best-selling book I ever wrote was called Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis' Life Beyond.
Right, it was a fabulous book.
And
she didn't like it?
Well, she said she found all 12 books pulpy, P-U-L, pulpy.
Oh, funny.
And I thought, Natalie, in spite of the put down, I love you still.
Well,
I'm a generous spirit.
Yes, you are.
But see, I can always divorce myself from personal things.
Right.
In fact, I've had 2 or 3 feuds with actresses, and yet I think, say in the case of Gloria Swanson, I think her performance in Sunset Boulevard, which is coming back to Broadway as a musical, was the greatest performance one of the great performances in the history of Hollywood. Regardless of my personal feelings and the trouble I had with Miss Swanson, which we once talked about on the radio, and so I think Jackie is a brilliant performance, and she's got many people have tried to imitate Jacqueline Kennedy, and Miss Portman does it brilliantly. In fact, I'm sort of sad. Sometimes you see, in the same year, 2 or 3 people really deserve the Oscar, but only one can win.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, I just wanted to put a little perspective on what's going on. Now, who knows what's coming up? I mean, there's also a thing called the Oscar curse, meaning some people can win an Oscar, and then it's all downhill from there. But a lot of people go on. They get better. Louise Reiner, say, she lived to be 104. She just recently died. She won 2 Oscars back to back. There's The Good Earth and The Great Ziegfeld. And after that, she made a series of films that were so bad and failed totally at the box office. So she invented what is called the Oscar curse, meaning it doesn't happen in all cases, but I'm just saying, just because you win an Oscar doesn't mean that you're guaranteed a great career. And
so also, when is the? I'm out of it, as you know. So tell me, when is the big night to see this?
I think it's February 26th. I may be off on, and Jimmy Kimmel is going to narrate this.
I see.
This, and I don't know if you have time to ever see him or if you're up that late at night, but he's very, very good, and it'll be an interesting thing. And
what I was told, though, now is a lot of the actors are going to speak out politically. They're feeling very strong.
That also causes a great deal of controversy. In fact, you may have heard how Donald Trump was going after Meryl Streep when
I did.
She accepted an award.
I did.
But there are those articles I read every day that actors should stay out of politics. Don't tell that to Arnold Schwarzenegger. But, that actors should stay out of, and don't tell that to Ronald Reagan if you run into him lately.
Right.
And then George Murphy, the song and dance man of the 40s, became and Ronald Reagan's best friend, became senator from, and then later deserted California when they voted him out of office and moved to Florida.
I do remember that, but I don't think that they should stay out of politics. If they're people, they get a chance to say what they want.
Yeah. Now, what is odd is that I know we don't have much time.
No, we don't.
But the one thing, now there's something I deplore, and that is there are 7,000 members of the Academy, and they've been a great protest, and they've removed some of the old established stars to make room for the new people. And these are people born in the 30s, and they're post-war baby boomers. That would be like saying Oscar winners Ginger Rogers and James Stewart you haven't worked lately, you're not entitled to be a member of the Academy.
Why don't they just increase the amount of people that can be in it?
Exactly. That's what I want.
Seems so simple.
Because, and they found that some of the people that they brought into the Academy, they did a survey, they don't know who Betty Davis and Joan Crawford were, and they have never seen Gone with the Wind.
Oh, my God.
And I recently met with some people from NYU Film Department. I asked them, I said, you have never seen a movie with Clark Gable? And they said, no.
Oh, my
said,
God.
We're not interested in the old-time movies. But I said, you want to make film, you at least should read a book. I mean, if you want to make it your life, you should read what came before you.
Darwin, you're just old-fashioned, kiddo.
I am just old-fashioned, and I know who in fact, I knew Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, and I saw Gone with the Wind 18 times, so I want to give my credentials.
Well, thank you, Darwin. It was wonderful hearing you today and giving us a summary of all the theater and all the movies. And
bless you, my dear.
Thank you, Darwin. Bye.